Oh boy, Donald Trump apparently not holding back in the courtroom today. Apparently, he let the judge have it. Like, just let that judge have it from here to Sunday. And I'm not surprised because I'm going to play you the tape. When he went into the courtroom earlier today, he was seething mad. He said it was a witch hunt and that this was election interference, this, that, and the other. We'll play that sound for you. I also want to play you some of the sound of Donald Trump when he came out of the courtroom because he sounded different. But we have the New York Times headline because the New York Times, they put this up. I mean, everybody's covering this right now. As Trump rebukes judge in court. Judge tells his lawyers, control your client. Good luck with that one. Control Donald Trump. Not easy to do. So according to this story, we have a couple quotes here. He was pretty fiery. He went into that courtroom and he said, apparently, that Letitia James, who incidentally, whether you like it or not, she did campaign. I've showed you the tape many times. She campaigned on getting Trump. He said, Letitia James, she hates me. Quote, hates Trump and uses Trump to get elected. He also took aim, says the New York Times, at Arthur and Gordon, remarking, quote, you have your own agenda. I certainly understand that. He added, as apparently the judge stared stoningly at him, quote, you can't listen for more than 1 minute. So the judge instructed the former president of the United States, his lawyer, to, quote, control your client. Like that's happening. But apparently, Trump just kept going and going and going. And he's like after this judge, and he continued to do so until suddenly they decided to take a lunch break. So there's been a lot of restrictions placed on Trump, a lot of objections. Donald Trump originally wanted to get up there. I told this to you yesterday. He wanted to present sort of his side of things in the final remarks. And the judge wouldn't let him because there were all these rules and regulations. Okay, you can only do this, you can only do that. And so then finally, apparently they worked something out where Donald Trump was going to be able to say his piece, but he was going to have to do so with lots of restrictions, including, as the New York Times reported, no going after Letitia, no going after the judge. And so he got up there and he said, look, I did nothing wrong. He argued that the attorney general should be paying him for what he's had to go through. And he also then took a couple sort of shots at Letitia James and the judge. I think we have some of those quotes as well. But better yet, let's listen to Donald Trump right before he went into the control room. Yeah, they're trying to control you. Into the courtroom. So he goes into the courtroom, and right before he's there, he speaks to the press. They didn't actually have any microphones, so you have to listen really hard. But trust me, you're going to get the gist of it. He's furious. He has to be there. I get it, right? Like the whole thing is just, it's getting to the point where it's like, enough already. It is so political. It is so disgusting. It was originally $250 million that they wanted to charge him. Now it's $370 million. Well, he's had it and he sounded off. And I have a feeling that the judge got a little taste of this, shall we say, in the actual courtroom. Let's roll the tape.
Donald Trump.
Witch hunt. It's election interference at the highest level. It's a disgrace. It's in coordination with the White House and Joe Biden because you can't win a campaign fairly. And we're going through it, but it is indeed a terrible witch hunt. We're going to have a news conference a little bit later on. As you know, I want to speak. I want to make the summation. At this moment, the judge is not letting me make the summation because I'll bring up things that he doesn't want to hear. And it's a very unfair trial. Nobody's seen anything like this. I don't think they've ever seen anything like this. We have a situation where a statute was used that doesn't give me a jury, so I have no jury. I really have no rights, and it's and nobody thinks it's constitutional. Legal scholars are writing about it like it's something they've never seen before. So it's interference. It's political interference. And it's something that shouldn't be allowed. So I am hoping to speak and to help my lawyers reveal all of the defects of this case, which should have never been brought. Very, very strong financial statements. They thought it was the opposite. They had no idea because I'm a private company. Then they saw them knock their socks off. They couldn't believe it. but great financial statements. Everything is good. We have a level of detail in our defense that nobody's ever had. This is a case that should have never been brought, and it was brought. And it's very unfair, and it's very bad for New York State. Companies are fleeing, people are fleeing, the streets are crime-ridden, and Letitia James, that's all she thinks about is get Trump. She's been dreaming about it for years, and it's not the way a state should be run, because this.
So you can see he was fired up. And when he's fired up, good luck to the lawyers trying to control their client. So I suspect that the judge got a little taste of that. But what was interesting about it is after the control your client thing, it actually didn't stop him. He continued to move forward with a lot of the same comments that you just heard as he was going into the courthouse. But then he came out of he suddenly abruptly stopped, and he came out of the courthouse, and he was quite, he has the ability to do this, right? Quite controlled, quite deliberate, said it went well, and kind of backed off. Interestingly, really, really backed off. Let's play this clip. Here he is just moments ago, folks, and sounding a little more, pleased about the whole thing. I can't imagine he is, but let's listen.
I don't know if you can hear me because they don't allow mics, but this is a political witch hunt, the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. They owe me damages for what they've done. We have a great company. We're a very innocent
Actually, I take that back.
company. We did everything right. They have no witness against us other than Michael Cohen.
He's pretty mad still.
Discredited felon. They have no witnesses against us whatsoever. They don't have one piece of paper. What we've run is a great company, and that's been proven. Very highly successful company. This was a political witch hunt for election interference, but also for getting somebody elected because you wanted to get the publicity. It's a disgrace, and they should pay me damages. That's the way it should be. They should be paying me damages. This is a disgraceful situation. This is why businesses are fleeing New York, like Exxon. Millions and millions of dollars a year in taxes, and I paid millions and millions of dollars a year. We paid approximately $300 million over a fairly short period of time, and they don't want me to pay it anymore. This is a very serious problem because companies are fleeing New York. They ought to focus on the crime, violent crime in the city. One of the reasons they're fleeing. The other reason they flee is because of attorney generals like this that just want to get elected. Thank you very much. It's been a very successful trial. I don't know that we're going to get a fair ruling, but everybody knows what I just said. This is a sham, and it's a shame. Thank you.
Are you talking today?
Okay. I clearly was listening to something rather different because he was just as angry, actually more angry, if you ask me, in that little clip as he was walking out of that courthouse. And you know what? He's tapping into something that I think Americans can relate to, right? Like, what do you do? What do you do when the feds come after you? It's kind of game over, right? Like when they descend on you, if they haven't found anything massive by now, like what are they going to find? I mean, can you imagine, I've said this before, if it was, I don't know, Don Jr. that had the laptop that Hunter Biden had? I mean, can you even imagine? It would be a completely different scenario. And so he hasn't gotten like in major trouble over any of these things. And it's not for lack of trying, right? It's totally not for lack of trying. They so clearly want to go after him. They so clearly want to get him however they can. And by now, like, you'd think they'd have gotten him if there was something to really get him on. And so I think he's making a point that, unfortunately, for those that do not want to see Donald Trump back in the office, the Oval Office, he's making a point that politically has a lot of appeal with everyday Americans, including independents. And I've said this all along, the more they go after him, the more people are like, whoa, like you guys are just kind of pushing it too far.